So there was a problem that we didn't know how to solve up here. That was number 3, where I put in pink. We need to learn how to fully simplify this because it's not fully simplified yet. So that's what we're going to learn how to do today. So what if my problems don't have any common factors? What should I do then? So what if there isn't anything that I can take out? What if my problems don't have any common factors, like the easy ones that we've been doing? What should I do? So if the rational expression such as x squared plus 4x plus 3 over x plus 1 should appear, we need to do more work. So we need to think back to our quadratics unit and we need to factor this guy. We need to factor some things so that we can get it into a simpler form. So I'm going to do that problem that I had as our example. So x squared plus 4x plus 3 over x plus 1. So if you remember back to the quadratics unit, we needed to multiply to get 3 and add to get 4. So I need to think of numbers that I can multiply together to get 3 that will add to give me 4. So if I think about that, my numbers that are going to multiply to 3 but add to 4 are 3 and 1. And that would give me that 4 that I needed. So when I do this, when I factor this guy, I'm going to end up having x plus 3 times x plus 1 over my x plus 1. And then from here, things get a lot prettier. I have an x plus 1 on the top. I have an x plus 1 on the bottom. I can cancel those guys out. And I'm going to be left with this x plus 3. So all we really have to do with problems like this are think about how we're going to factor them. And then go ahead and do that and see if we can cancel some things out. So we're going to do the same thing here for this problem. We have x squared plus 6x plus 8 over x squared plus 5x plus 4. So on the top part, I'm going to do the top part first. So that's my green highlight. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in green. I need numbers that are going to multiply to give me 8, but are going to add to give me 6. So two numbers that multiply to give me 8 but add to 6, that's 4 and 2. So 4 times 2 is 8, 4 plus 2 is 6. So when I factor that top one in green, I'm going to end up with x plus 4 times x plus 2. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pick a new color. Let's do pink. Pink is going to be my bottom one. So when I think about two numbers that multiply to give me 4, but are going to add to give me 5. So two numbers that multiply to 4, but add to 5 are 4 and 1. So if I do my, just like I did over here in green, I'm going to have x plus 4 and x plus 1. So now things look a little bit prettier because from here I can cancel some things out. I have an x plus 4 on top. I have an x plus 4 on bottom, so I can cancel those guys out. I have x plus 2 on top and x plus 1 on the bottom. I can't do anything there. So my final answer here is going to be x plus 2 over x plus 1. That's my final answer there. So again, for this one, all we did was factor the top, factor the bottom, see what we could cancel it out, and simplify. So if we move down here, this one looks super fun. I love these. So I'm going to do pink on the top again. So for the top, I have some common like terms that I can combine. So if I combine those like terms, I'm going to end up with 4y cubed. And then 4y minus 8y. So 4y minus 8y is negative 4y. And then on the bottom, let's do blue this time for the bottom. So for the bottom, if I simplify that bottom part, nothing happens to that first 2y cubed. And then I have 4y minus 6y, which gives me negative 2y. But then from here, things still don't look simplified. So what I'm going to do is simplify that top and simplify that bottom. So on the top, I have y in both of my terms. So I can factor out a y and a 4. I have a 4 and a y in both of those terms. So I'm going to take those guys out and I'm going to be left with y squared minus 1. And then on the bottom, I have a 2 in both of my terms, and I have a y in both of my terms. So I can take out a 2 and a y, and I'll be left with y squared minus 1. So then from here, you already know what I'm going to say next. We're going to look at what we can simplify. So 4 and 2, I can take a 2 out of both of those. And then I have a y and a y. And then I also have a y squared minus 1 and a y squared minus 1. So this was a really nice problem. So if I take a 2 out of my 4, I end up with 2. And then I canceled everything else out. So my answer for this is just 2. Weird how that happens. So let's go to this last problem here. This last problem is going to take a little bit more when we go to solve this. So again, I want to factor the top first. So in all of our other ones that we factored, so like this guy up here, this number 2, if I looked at my a variable, or I looked at my a value there, they were 1. So the a value here is 2. That value in front of the x squared is 2. And I can't take a 2 out of everything. So I have to think differently this time. This is where I use that AC method. So I'm going to multiply my 2 and my 3 together. So it's actually a negative 3, right? So I'm going to do 2 times negative 3, which gives me negative 6. So this time I want two numbers that are going to multiply to give me negative 6, but are going to add to give me 5. So two numbers that multiply to negative 6, but add to give me 5. So those two numbers are going to be 6 and negative 1. So 6 times negative 1 gives me negative 6, and 6 plus negative 1 gives me 5. So we all know what happens next. This is when I take this 5x and I split it. So I'm going to do that down here. So I'm going to have 2x squared plus 6x minus x minus 3. So I took that 5x and I split it. We all remember doing this. And then now this has 4 terms. So now I need to think about my grouping method. So I'm going to do this in purple. So I can group these guys and I can group these guys. So when I do that, I look at my first set of parentheses. So it has a 2x squared plus 6x. So what can I take out of that? Well, 2 and 6 have 2 in common. And x squared and x, I could pull an x out. And then I'd be left with x plus 3. So now I have negative x minus 3. So I think, well, what can I do with that? Well, they both have negative 1 in common. So I could pull out a negative 1 and I'd be left with x plus 3. So the key here is to make sure that this parenthesis and this parenthesis are the same. So we check that they are. That's perfect. So this gives me my two factors. So I have 2x minus 1 as one factor and x plus 3 as another factor. That's my blue. This is my blue. That's my numerator. So now let's do the denominator. So the denominator, let's do that guy in pink. My denominator. This time I'm going to multiply my 3 and 6. So 3 times 6 is 18. So I need two numbers that are going to multiply to give me 18, but are going to add to give me 11. So those two numbers happen to be 9 and 2. So 9 times 2 is 18, and 9 plus 2 is 11. And then all I'm going to do is spread everything out. So I'm going to split that middle 11, and I'm going to have 3x squared plus 9x plus 2x plus 6. So all I did there was split that 11x into 9x plus 2x. And then I'm going to go ahead and group everything. Oops. Group everything. So now I look at my first set of parentheses. I have 3x squared plus 9x. What's something that they both have in common? Well, they both have 3 in common. And they both have x in common. So if I pull out a 3x, I'm going to be left with x plus 3. And then I'm going to look at my second set of parentheses. So 2x plus 6. They both have 2 in common. So I'm going to pull a 2 out. And I'm going to be left with x plus 3. And then I check myself here. I want to make sure that these two parentheses are the same, which they are, which is good. We like that. So my two factors then become 3x plus 2 and x plus 3. So this is my denominator. So when I put everything together, I take my numerator, I take my denominator, and I rewrite it. So my numerator was 2x minus 1 times x plus 3 over 3x plus 2 times x plus 3. And now things look really pretty, right? They look really nice. I have some common things going on. I have an x plus 3 on the top. I have an x plus 3 on the bottom. So I can just cancel those guys out. If I look at 3x plus 2 and 2x minus 1, I can't really do anything else there. So my final answer here is going to be 2x minus 1 over 3x plus 2. So number 4 was a little bit more complicated. We really had to do a lot of factoring there. It took a lot of time, but I believe that you guys can do that. All the other ones were a little bit more straightforward. We just factored and simplified. If you have any questions about number 4 and how to kind of do that more, please just let me know and we can have like a one-on-one session where we talk through that. Because, let's see, I think there's maybe 2-3 problems where you're going to have to do that on the practice today. So please let me know if you have any questions about that, just so that we are on the same page and you know what's going on. But that's all the notes that we have for today.